think some of the best practical tips in the book come from this section of like, even if you have a boss, even if you're working in a huge company, even if you've got like 20 people who under you who are relying on you, like here are some practical tidbits that you can do to slow things down, to take things off your plate. Can you run through a couple of those really quick?
Yeah. And most of them come back to the practical tips in that section, making your workload more transparent. It's almost like psychology hacking in some sense. Like one of the issues that keeps too much work coming on your plate and you saying yes too much is other people don't know what you're doing. Again, so they see you as a vessel to do their work and they're offended. Why would you say no? They're like an idea in there that was actually meant as a thought experiment, but people that I've talked to about this on the podcast are actually doing it. So it's fascinating. Like it's maybe not a thought experiment, is have a shared document, right? And at the top of it is, here's like the 3 things I'm working on right now. Like a divider line. All right, here's the queue of things I'm going to work on next, like that I've agreed to. Now, when someone comes along and is like, hey, can you do this? And it's, it's not like an obvious no, right? It's from your boss or whatever. Like, yeah, of course. Just add it, throw it on the queue. Yeah. And like, if there is information I need to know to execute it, you can put it there, or you can just put a reminder to say like, to call you when it gets closer or whatever. Throw it on the queue. Oh, and by the way, you can check in anytime you want to see where that thing is as it works its way up. Oh, and you want it to be done fast? That's great. You're the boss, just tell me which of the things. So what are we moving? Yeah, you know better than I. Which one are we moving down? I'll let them know, Yeah. And it forces a confrontation with the reality of workload. And you would think something like this would be kind of preposterous or, a boss would be like, what are you talking about? But if you do this nicely, it's actually really effective. Like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. You're working on these things. You know what? Don't worry about this, right? Because it's going to take you too long to get to this anyways. I'll give it to someone else, or we just won't do it. Or now that I see what you're doing, can we take these 3 things back off your plate? I don't want you doing those. It's like your employee. I don't want you doing those 3 things. Like these type of things are more important. Oh, I see what's getting in the way of you doing this, which you're really good at. So you know what? Tell these people you're not doing that. I want you just to be working on this. Transparency unlocks a lot of good things, and obfuscation unlocks a lot of frustration.
Hearing you say that, it makes me wonder how much of this issue is that if you're in person, or let's say you're in a blue collar job, you're on a construction site or something, you can physically see what everybody's doing. You can talk to someone, you can see if they seem like flustered or overloaded. There's an emotional, intangible communication that happens in person, where as a group, you can kind of prioritize and sort tasks by what's most valuable in each given moment. And there's not an argument about it. There's no ambiguity about it. Whereas when you go digital, you don't have that extra nonverbal communication. You don't actually see that John's like working his ass off or busy with 8 other things. So it makes sense that building systems with that explicit purpose would solve a lot of these issues. I was a big fan of the push versus pull processes. That's the section that I hit. I was like, oh my God, I'm totally going to use this.
That's the way all work should be done, by the way. Pull, not push.
Yes.
Yeah. Pull, not push is like how all knowledge work should be assigned. And almost none is.
Can you describe each one of those and what it looks like?
Yeah. And this comes out of manufacturing, right? So, in manufacturing, a push system would be, as soon as I'm done with this step of the manufacturing process, I push it on to the next person. Right. This doesn't work out very well because I can't control the speed at which things are being pushed on me, and then you can get pileups. Right. Yep. So what works better is a pull-based system. When I'm ready to do the next thing, I'll pull it from you. No one gets piled up. Yep. So basically, the slowest step of the chain in this particular setup dictates the speed. But then what really happens in these systems is then you can pretty clearly identify, oh, great, this is the slowest one. We can put more resources there, and the whole system speeds up. No pileups, though. This is how knowledge work should be assigned, but it's not. We push. Something comes into my world. It's now a source of stress for me. Like a client called me. I was like, we gotta, whatever. We gotta get this feature, whatever, added to the software. I want to get this off my plate as soon as possible because, productivity is personal and I'm not very organized and it's just in my head and it stresses me out. So I'm just going to push it onto someone else's plate. So I can just be like, Mark, take care of the feature, exclamation point, emoji, send, boom, it's off my plate, right? It took me like 7 seconds and it's just on. Now I've pushed it onto your plate. Now you have to deal with it. So now you're pushing other things onto other people's plates. So all the work that comes into the system gets pushed on someone's plate. It's all unevenly distributed and we get the whole overhead tax issue, right? Yeah. A pull-based system in knowledge work would be, okay, things that need to be done exist by default, not on an individual person's plate. Like we have a place to keep track of as a team. These are things that need to be done. So the client calls me hey, we got to have this feature, whatever. I put it to our list of these are things we need to do. It's not on my plate, it's not on your plate. Then what individuals do is as they finish something, they pull something more from that list. And you can do this intelligently, like let's have a quick meeting or whatever to figure out. We have a stand-up meetings, how they do it in software development. Okay, you're done with this. What's the best thing for you to do next? Well, now that we're really looking at this, like we should really give this priority. Okay, will you take that on next? And it gives you an opportunity to say, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need this from you and this from you and this from you. And you can kind of figure it out right then.
Yeah.
Okay, not a lot of emails. Okay, make sure I get that by Tuesday. Let's write this down. You're doing that. All right, this draft will be ready for you to check by Wednesday. I'll put it in this Dropbox and you do that and I'll come back to it and you figure out the whole plan. And then you go and do that thing and it gets executed. Like that is the right way to leverage cognitive resources, not just, oh my God, like let's just email these things, them off. It's just obligation hot potato. I got to get this stuff off my plate right now because I'm stressed.
Totally.
And I temporarily feel better. And I just made 20 people feel worse. I mean, they're going to retaliate. They're going to retaliate. It's like, no, you get this. You get this sometimes where people will send you an email and you know that there's not enough information there for you to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, it's going to get bounced back. They know it's going to get bounced back. But in the moment, they were just trying to get that off
They're trying to get it out of their inbox.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, oh, if I can just clear my inbox, I'm done for the day.
I'm done for the day. Yeah. So you send nonsense.